Hello. I'm here. This is my beautiful sister-in-law, Liliana.
Hi. Say hi, Sebastian. Say hi to you, Peter.
No, baby. Ale.
There's Tio Alex, and there's cousin Nina.
Every time you turn it that way, you show Ed's nipples.
So he shouldn't be. There's Nina visiting from San Francisco, and there's Carlitos, and there's my amazing mother-in-law passed out asleep on the couch. She's a little tired today. She worked all day long. They stayed up. Nina, why did you keep everybody up till 1 o'clock in the morning?
Because
Or
got aunt. It was all my aunt's job. I wanted to go to bed. She's got it.
What?
¿Cómo te llamas tú?
So what should we talk about?
wait, what's the song that you sing? What's that song?
Oh yeah, what's the song you guys do together?
Johnny, Johnny.
Yeah.
Okay, Sebastián. Johnny, Johnny. Johnny, Johnny.
Okay, he doesn't want to do it. Oh,
Not today.
Sebastian. Let's sing it, you and I.
Squid it out. Squid.
Joni, Joni.
Yes, Papa.
Joni, Joni.
Sugar. No, Papa. Canta, anda, canta.
What?
Hmm?
Do you want to dance? Do you want to dance?
I like it.
Somebody.
I want to feel the heat with somebody. Yeah, dance with somebody. And there's Abuela. There's Aunt Jackie.
Hello.
Okay, let's do the song again. See if they do it.
Johnny, Johnny.
I-
Eating sugar. Telling lies.
Carlitos, come over here and do it since he won't do it.
Canta, canta, canta. Ha, ha, ha.
Carlitos.
Johnny, Johnny, ven.
Carlitos, if you do it, he'll do it. Come over here, I'll make you a movie star. If you do it, I'll make you a movie star.
It's record.
I know. Carlitos.
Ven,
Carlitos, come
Johnny,
here.
Johnny.
If you do it, he'll do it. And oh, okay, we're doing handstands now. Okay, come here. We're gonna do it, and we're gonna be movie stars. Okay, do it, Joni.
Johnny, Johnny, yes, Papa. Eating sugar, no, Papa. Telling lies, no, Papa. Open your mouth. Ha, ha, ha.
Yay! That was so good. Have you ever seen it when Sebastian does it, Nina? Oh, Carlitos. And Carlos, your husbando. How do you say husband in Spanish?
Esposo.
Esposo. Primo. Prima.
Prima. La abuela se rascó.
Where is your esposo?
Mi esposo.
Is where? Baseball?
Jugando béisbol. Playing baseball.
Alex, what are you doing?
Look.
Sebastian! Is that your Tio Alex? Nina, did you miss being around everybody? Are you so glad that you're home?
I am. Yes.
Sebastian!
Yeah.
Joni, Joni! What's another song that he sings at home?
El pum 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 pum. Y la cosa suena ra.
Ta, 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 ta.
Scooby-Doo, papá. El boom 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 boom.
Ta, 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 ta. Can you do that? Ah!
Y a él le gusta. La que a ti te gusta, la que tú le gusta es la de.
Mueve este boom boom tam tam.
Este boom boom tan tan.
Oh, okay.
Do the Joni Joni thing. That's
Joni, Joni.
No!
Joni, Joni,
No!
He usually does it. I showed it in another video. Ed, what are we watching?
Ahora tú.
Ed's always got the news on.
Uy, Johnny. Tú.
You gotta look out for Edgewife Jackie back there because she's obsessed with that. Jackie, who's that serial killer lady that you, not serial killer, but
Oh
that?
my God, that was, what is the name of it?
Joey area, what's her?
Oh, you know more than me. I forgot about her name.
She's the one that killed her husband.
Boyfriend.
And you, oh, see, and you keep knives around and everything.
Oh, yeah. Every area, baby. Oh my God, he remembered better than me. That I do.
Aww.
Mommy.
Are you being good for your? Are you being good for your?
Sebastián, la vaca Lola, la vaca. Pues. La vaca Lola, la vaca.
Please sing it for us.
It's time for Johnny.
Joni. He ain't having it. Look at Nina. She's ready for a nap. Nina is phased out. She's like, Joni. Nina's like, can we please not sing that song again? All right, so let's say goodbye to everybody.
Bye.
Goodbye. We're gonna go back to the barbecue. Hello. Look at my crazy hair. I took a nap. I came prepared tonight. I have this camera, which is my new camera. I don't know how much of the battery is left because I filmed my videos on it today and I vlogged earlier. And I have my shitty camera right here. Fully charged battery. So if this one dies, I will be filming on the other camera. So I'm like, ain't no stopping me now. So yeah, cheers. Had a good day today. I went and had coffee with a friend for a long time. Long coffee, sat around, talked, caught up. And then I came home and I made videos. And Alex's cousin Nina and his uncle Monn were coming into town from San Francisco. And so I had to get my stuff done because they haven't been here. Well, Nina's been here for Christmas a couple times, but her dad hasn't. So I didn't know, I didn't know what time I was going to go over there because they were having like this family get-together barbecue. And I didn't know what time I was going to be able to, I didn't know what time I was going to have to go over there. They were just kind of waiting until they flew in. And so I had to get all my stuff done. And Alex texted me like halfway through making my videos and was like, okay, they're here. And so I got my stuff done. And then I drove up there and we hung out. And it was fun. Nina is vegan. So they went grocery shopping, I guess, on the way back for the barbecue, and she got veggie burgers for she and I, so I got to have a veggie burger grilled out. It was actually really good, and I had 2 veggie burgers, and some cucumber salad, and a small brownie. And that was all I ate today, so, I mean, besides the brownie, it was pretty healthy, and, oh, I had some potato chips. I had some potato chips too. So those weren't really healthy. But we had fun. We just kind of hung out. And I showed you guys some of it. You know, I was just realizing this that like by the time that, because they had been flying all day, by the time that they're going to be here for like 3 weeks. By the time I started filming at Alex's Aunt Jackie's house, his Uncle Juan had gone upstairs and gone to take a nap. And his brother Carlos had already left for his baseball game. He was playing 2 baseball games today, or tonight. So, they weren't in the video. You guys didn't get to see them. But you got to see everybody else, so. We had fun. It was good. Alex and I left right after I started filming. We came home. We took a nap together, which was real nice. And fed the dogs. Alex watched some TV. I slept a little bit longer. And then got up and I did a live stream. And that's about it. It's real muggy tonight outside, but it's kind of cool. It's 67 degrees, but like muggy. I don't know how to explain it. But it's nice. It's not bad outside at all. It was funny when I was doing my live stream, people were like, plug my phone in. People can hear the crickets in the background, and they're like, I love the sound of the, well, my phone is already completely almost charged. They were like, I love the sound of the crickets in the background, and I thought that was so funny. I love the sound of the crickets too, you know? And tomorrow I don't have a whole lot to do tomorrow until like early evening. And I'm gonna get up. I think Alex works late tomorrow night. So I'm gonna get up and I'm gonna try to get my videos done and then go meet up with some people, some friends. And that's at 4 o'clock. Yeah, and then after that, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Probably another live stream maybe tomorrow night. I feel like there's something I have to do tomorrow night. Tomorrow night's Thursday, I don't know. I also have to go get contacts tomorrow because I've been wearing this one pair of contacts now, for about a week and a half, 2 weeks, and we're getting ready to go to Connecticut this weekend, and I'm worried that it's not going to, they're not gonna hold up through the weekend, so I need to go buy some contacts just in case. And I just went through PB's medication, and all his medication is fine. So we have enough till after we get back, so I don't have to fill that up until we get back. Yeah. Carlos's friend was supposed to house sit again for us and watch Boo and Tucker, but he wasn't there today, and Alex was going to make sure that he could do it still. I'm sure he can. If he can't, they'll just go to the kennel, which we call the hotel, with Pee-Pee, because Pee-Pee goes and stays with Tanya. It's been like a really like blah week, like really, not blah, I think that gives a negative connotation. It's been just kind of a really like chill week so far. It's been nice. I met with my friend today and we were talking about like our treatment experiences. I was telling him I had done like a vlog the other day about, he was asking me like what I do on YouTube. Like nobody in my real life has any understanding of like what I do. So when I say like, oh, I vlog, they're like, well, what's that? Is it like you write a blog? I'm like, no, it's like a video, you know, like it's kind of like a video, just rambling conversation and dangling conversation, like Simon and Garfunkel used to say. And I was explaining it to him, and I was telling him that I had done one the other day, talking about my treatment experience. And he was like, so we were talking about different treatment experiences, and he had gone to, well, he went to like 3 different places. He went to a detox, and then after his detox, he went to a wilderness treatment program that was like 6 weeks long, and then after that, he went to like a ranch, and he lived there for a year in a halfway house, like ranch thing. There was like 10 guys that lived there, and he and I have been friends for a long time, and so he was telling me about like when he was on his wilderness trip, that they did like a trek. I thought it was like 5 or 6, I think it's like 5 or 6 days. They were like up in the mountains in the snow, and they had to like, they were like trained to like learn how to like build, it's a really like well-known wilderness treatment program that's actually called the Wilderness Treatment Program. And he like had to like do this like snow shelter thing. And actually Sam Lansky, who is this guy that wrote The Gilded Razor, and it was a fantastic book. Not, I would say, trigger warning. He's a sex addict and a drug addict and alcoholic in the book. And he got sober, I can't remember when, he was like in his early 20s, but he wrote a book called The Gilded Razor, and it was fantastic. I read it like a year ago. And he actually went to the Wilderness Treatment Program in it too. And so he talks about his experience there. He had to go on the trek twice because the first time he didn't get anything out of it. So my friend was telling me that he went on this trek, and like part of what they do like you do like an inventory, a 4-step inventory, but like another part of the thing that you do is that it's 12-step based. You do like, you come up with these like realizations that you had about the world. And I was like, okay, what are the realizations you had? I actually made my Peterisms channel about this, or video about this today. And he was like, well, one of my realizations was that you always lose by comparison. And I said, okay, did you come up with that on your own? He was like, yeah. I was like, I just totally thought of it that way. I was like, really? He's like, yeah, there is no best. You always lose by comparison. I was like, you should write a motivational book. Like, you're good at this. He told me like 3 other ones or 2 other ones, and I'm going to use them for my videos the next couple days if I don't do a Dear Peter video tomorrow. But he was like, you know, because he was very athletic growing up, and he was like, you know, I've always been extremely competitive with everything that I do, like everything in, you know, high school, whatever. I've always been very, very competitive. And he said, I realized while I was out there, you know, that, I just remembered the other thing he told me. And he said, you know, I just realized that there really is no best. Like, your best is the best, because it's only the best that you can do. But if you constantly compare yourself to somebody else, you know, you're always going to lose by comparison. There's always going to be somebody that has it better, does it better, has more things, is more successful, whatever, at whatever it is in life, whether it's athletics, whether it's at, you know, the house they own, the money. You're always going to be able to find somebody that has it better than you. And I was really thinking a lot about that today. You know, like, there have been points in my life when I can really get down on myself about looking at my life and being like, well, I'm not here, I'm not there, and whatever. And I really think that, like, even with YouTube, like, one of the keys is that I don't know that I've lived my life in the last 5+ years, 10 years, thinking that way. You know, in my 30s, I think I was very much consumed with that. I was very consumed with thinking, wow, you know, like, okay, so I'm friends with this person, and like, you know, like somebody would have me over for dinner, and they would be like my exact same age, and, you know, they would be, let's say, like an architect or something, and, you know, like, they would live in some, you know, $500,000 house and have some great, you know, like, their own, like, architect firm and whatever. I'm just making this up, but, you know, whatever. Or they're a doctor. Like, one of my very good friends is a laser eye surgeon. And, you know, it's like, what did I do wrong? Because I started, I would always, like, go to, well, because I got sober late and I went to college late and I'm just not as smart as anybody else. And, you know, and my life in comparison to everybody else's life is, you know, like, if my friend, that friend, and he's been one of my very best friends for, you know, God, since I was 20 years old, so 26 years of my life, you know, if he was sitting here and he heard me say that, he would say, you are successful, Peter. Like, why do you believe that you're not successful? You know, like, you've done this and you've done that, and you've been here and you've been there, and you have a very successful marriage, and, you know, you have great relationships in your life, and, you know, why are you comparing yourself to me? And, you know, I think, like, that's the key, is not comparing ourselves to other people, because we're going to lose by comparison, you know? And so I thought it was so poignant that he said that. And the other thing that he told me was, he said that if you look too far ahead, oh my God, there's like 5 deer there. Oh my God, 6. Oh my God. And they were just standing in the cornfield over there. He said, if you, he goes, if you look too far ahead of you, you miss what's right in front of your face. And I was like, okay. And he goes, so I had this parka on when I was out there. And he goes, one day I was just kind of laying back in my shed, and I was like looking out at the mountains, you know, and all this kind of, he said it was beautiful. And he said, and I noticed that, like, right in front of me, like, I was looking at the mountains, and I just kept on looking at the mountains. And he said, I noticed that, like, right in front of me, this, like, piece of string had, like, come out of the parka. And he said, and it was, like, this really, like, fine piece of string that didn't look like it fit with, like, the parka at all, but it was very cool. And he goes, that was, like, on the 2nd day. And he said the rest of the, like, the trek, he goes, I kept this piece of string with me, and I would just kind of, like, you know, play with it and whatever. And he goes, it sounds stupid, but it kind of, like, kept me company out there. And I was thinking of, like, what's that movie, Castaway, with Tom Hanks with the ball? And he was like, you know, and he goes, if you look too far ahead of you, you never see what's really right in front of your face, which I think is very much like like the whole kind of idea of the Wizard of Oz, that everything you always needed to know is like right, you know, in your own backyard. And I think it's true. You know, a lot of times we're always looking ahead of us. We're always looking in the future at what's next. What next trip are we taking? What next holiday is happening? You know, what's our next big purchase we're going to make? Or what's the big next, you know, thing that we're excited about? And then we miss what's right there in front of us. We miss today, you know? Or we miss like just hanging out with family or watching a TV show or anything. We miss all that, if that makes sense. And, you know, then we're turning a blind eye to all of that, and I don't want to miss that. I don't want to miss out on that stuff, you know? It's too important to me. And, so anyway, we were just talking about different stuff like that. This is what people do when they're sober, is they get together and they talk about these kinds of things. I mean, we joke too. Tanya, Jean, and I especially laugh a lot. So that little thing in the video that you saw before when it was like, Joni, Joni, is like this song that Liliana, my sister-in-law, sings with the kids. And then she says like, Joni, Joni, and then they say something, and then there's, anyway, it's cute when they do it. But I can't remember the last time that I showed it, but I filmed it, and Sebastian, he did it. Sebastian's my nephew, but he's also my godson. And Carlitos is Alex's godson. Joni, Joni, cha-cha-cha, or something, I don't know. Anyway. One of the things I think is so fantastic about them as brothers is, like, they really, like, love each other. Like, they're very sweet to each other. And, you know, like, Carlitos will let, Sebastian come up and sit next to him while he's like playing on his tablet, or, you know, if he's sitting there talking, he'll like sit there and put his arm around him. He's very sweet to him, you know, and it's just really nice to see two siblings get along that well. I think they're 3 years apart. I hope they're always friends like that, you know. I know a lot of siblings. Alex and his brothers, I thought there was like a person just standing out there in the middle of this long driveway. Alex and his, well, not he and his brother Fufu, but he and his brother Carlos, there was like a 4-year period where they didn't like even talk. They didn't get along at all. They had some stupid argument or something, I don't know. Alex has told me the story, but I don't remember it. And then one night, it just like, something happened, and his mom started crying and was like, I'm tired of you guys fighting. Be done with this fight. This fight is stupid, and you need to love each other. And then they both broke down, and now they're friends again. They've been like really great friends ever since then. Carlos and his brothers are super, super close. And they never argue. Like, that's, you know, like how siblings argue? Like, they never argue, ever. And if one, like, needs something from the other, they, like, do it. Like, no questions asked. Which I love, you know? It's just such an easy family. Like, they're so easy. Like, nobody in the family ever fights. Like, they don't ever, like, don't not get along. And, I mean, like, my family growing up, like, my mom and dad, I mean, they were never really in the same room after they got separated, so I don't really remember them. Like, they would talk on the phone and stuff like that, but I don't remember them ever arguing. You know, my dad would come to pick me up, and my mom would always make, like, sarcastic, smart-ass comments, and my dad just would roll his eyes and couldn't stand, but, you know, he'd roll up in a new car or something, and my mom would make some comment about it. She'd say, oh, is that your midlife crisis car? She'd say stuff like that to him, or whatever. You didn't bring your lady friend tonight? There was this movie back in the day, oh, God, I love this movie so much, and it was called Shoot the Moon, and it's with Jill Clayburgh. It's one of the most fantastic movies ever, and it's about this writer, and Jill Clayburgh is what is his name? Why can't I think of his name? He's an English actor, and she plays his wife, and they live in this big farmhouse out in Sausalito, outside of San Francisco somewhere. And the beginning of it is him winning this award for his novel, like this book award. And so they get back, and like the next day, like she's cooking breakfast for the kids, and all the kids are running around and all this kind of stuff. And is it called Shoot the Moon? I think it's called Shoot the Moon. And she says, like, and she knows he's having an affair because, like, oh, they show a scene where he, like, takes his phone call and, like, he, like, goes in the other room and whatever, and she knows it's going on, that he's having this affair. And there's, like, this line that is so fantastic in it, and he says, Albert Finney is who it is. Albert Finney and Jill Clayburgh. They're so good. And she said, so they're in the kitchen and the kids have just like gone on the school bus, and she comes back in and she's like cleaning the dishes and he's like sitting there, and she says something about, when are you gonna go see her? And he goes, who are you talking about? And she said, your lady friend. And he goes, my what? And she goes, your lady friend. And he goes, what's that? And she goes, it's like fucking except you don't tell anybody. I love that line so much. And then she was in a movie, I think she was in a movie, well, this movie was before, this Shoot the Moon came after, but she was in a movie called An Unmarried Woman, which was fantastic. My mother loved these movies, I'm telling you, when she was going, I was probably much too young to be seeing these movies and having any clue what was going on with all this kind of stuff, but I didn't even understand them at that time. I watched them later and loved them. The movie Unmarried Woman is about a woman that gets a divorce, and then she's seeing this therapist. She lives in New York City, and it's kind of like her figuring out herself and coming out on her own. Another great movie for that is Living Out Loud. It is such a great movie, you guys, with Holly Hunter and Queen Latifah's in it. And there was this one scene. So I used to work with a lot of women when I was life coaching that were going through divorce, and they were trying to figure out what they wanted to do with their lives. And so I would recommend a lot of these movies to them, you know. And this movie, there's this, I think I've talked about this on here before, but there's this one scene when, like, they're closing, she and her ex-husband are closing on the apartment that they owned in New York City. And so she's gone out the night before with Queen Latifah and just like partied the house down, right? And she's like hungover, not feeling it. She has these huge sunglasses on. And so the woman that her ex-husband was cheating on is now like pregnant and ready to pop at any moment, and like had the affair and got pregnant before they were even divorced. And so for some reason she's at this house closing, and she and Holly Hunter are standing by the elevator to go up to like the room to do the closing, and they're like waiting for the ex-husband to come. And this girl says to her, well, I mean, she's standing there so pregnant, and she's looking at Holly Hunter, and Holly Hunter's just looking at her, and the girl looks at her and she goes, I just want you to know, I'm not the kind of person that normally does these kinds of things, like implying cheating, you know? She goes, I just want you to know I'm not the kind of person that normally does these kinds of things. And Holly Hunter looks at her and goes, wow, you're good. Can I fuck you too? I love that so much. I love great lines in movies. I'll tell you a movie that has some fantastic lines in it is Aaron Brockovich. That's one of my favorite movies of life. I love that movie so much. Julia Roberts was like made for that role. She hasn't been in anything lately, has she? I know a lot of people don't like her, but I like Julia Roberts. How can you not like Julia Roberts? Like, what's wrong with her? I mean, she's got kind of a toothy grin, I guess, but they're all veneers. If I was a movie star, I'd probably get all veneers too, and then I'd look like those dogs that are on the front of those funny cards. I hate my teeth, and I don't ever smile with my teeth. I don't even know how. People are like, you don't smile with your teeth. I'm like, I don't know how to. Like, my teeth don't show when I smile, so what am I supposed to do, you know? I look like one of those dogs or cats on the front of those goofy ass cards, or like the dogs on the front of those Dinabone bags, you know what I'm talking about? They'll have like, that would be me with my veneers. Oh my gosh. I did a video on my main channel today about relapse and recovery. I thought it was important to do. And, I mean, it's a lot of what I talk about on here, but, you know, it was interesting because I did a video, I don't know if it was like on my Peterson's channel or what it was the other day, where I was talking about like after I got out of treatment. What video was that? Where I was talking about that it was about 6 months when I walked out and I got my 6-month token, and I was like, I felt like I had arrived, you know, like I was here. My nose was driving me crazy. I literally took scissors and clipped around here today because my mustache up here was getting kind of long. And ever since I did that, it's like itchy. I think sometimes maybe like hair's going in my nose or something after I trim it. But, I was talking about how like when I walked out of getting my 6-month token, that I have to like remember when this camera stops. It stops at like 24 minutes, 23 minutes or something, so it's gonna stop here in a second. But but it doesn't stop because of the heat. Oh, the battery is like almost dead. I cannot believe it. Well, when it stops here in a second, I'll move it to the other camera, which is not gonna be great because the quality will be different, but at least I can still film. Actually, I'll just stop it right now because the battery light and the timer just went red, so I'll stop it and I'll come right back. Bye. Okay, nothing with this stupid camera can ever be, or with it, not the camera, nothing with this vlog can ever be easy, you guys, you know what I mean? So, I took the memory card out and put it in the other camera, or put it in this camera. Can you guys notice any, like, huge difference between the cameras? So, I took them out and put it in the other one, and it said it's not formatted for this camera. So I couldn't, because I formatted it with the Canon, so now I can't, so now I'm gonna have to upload both memory cards. It's always something. Anyway, I thought that battery was pretty much charged but I filmed other videos on it today and my vlog, so maybe that's why. Maybe I'm just gonna need to get a longer life battery or something, who knows? Anyway. There's like this like minivan just sitting over here in the middle of this empty parking lot. It's kind of spooky. I'm hungry. Such is the problems of my life, I guess. Well, I thought I was completely prepared to do this vlog and it wasn't going to be an issue whatsoever with me filming it, but now this one I'll probably stop in like 5 minutes or something. Oh, I can totally tell a difference in I like the other camera so much better, don't you guys? God, I hate this Sony camera, but you know what? I'm gonna get as much worth out of it as I possibly can. So anyway, you know, I wasn't really entirely sure. My hands are still so sticky from that camera, the bottom of it from sticking to that thing. I wasn't entirely sure until like I came out of my meeting at 6 months with my 6-month token, and I can remember standing in the parking lot, and it was, you know, like in the summer, and I can remember standing out in the parking lot, and it was warm, and I was standing out there, and I was like getting ready to walk to my car, and I was like, this is like, well, when would I have gotten a new car? Because I didn't have a car for a really long time sober. I was going to talk to you guys about like what it was like when I got out of treatment for a while. Because I don't know that I've ever talked about that on here, like my first year sober. When did I get a new car? I think I got a new car like maybe that spring sometime. I don't remember. I don't even remember what my car was that I got. But anyway, it doesn't matter. So when I walked out of that meeting and I got that 6-month token, I thought to myself, I have never done anything for 6 months at one time, let alone stay sober. I had, since I was 12 years old, I had never stayed sober for 6 months in a row. I hadn't stayed sober probably for 2 or 3 weeks in a row. I mean, there have been some times on probation, when I was on probation, that I wouldn't like use a lot, but even then, I would drink a weekend here, a weekend there, but I was so scared of getting caught while I was on probation. But I wasn't sober. I wasn't working a recovery program. There were times in there that I still used. So I honestly don't know, up till that point, what the longest I was that I had been sober. I don't really remember. So anyway, I'm gonna turn the air on a little bit. It's kind of getting a little warm in here. I got out of treatment and I was registered for classes, and that was the deal that I had made with my dad. He didn't really care. He was like, you can go back to school or you can get a full-time job, but you're gonna be doing something. And he agreed to help me out for my first year. But I had to follow this contract that he had written up for me. And I'd had a lot of these behavior contracts before that said, you know, you have to do this, you have to do that. You have to go to so many meetings. I think this contract said I had to go to like a meeting every day. I had to go to aftercare once or twice a week. I can't remember. I think I started twice a week. And then, which was just like a follow-up group. Maybe it was just once a week. I don't remember. I had to see aftercare was once a week, and my counselor was twice a week that I had to see. And then I had to have a sponsor, and my dad had to be able to talk to my sponsor whenever I wanted to, and I couldn't use drugs and alcohol. And I remember when I was going over this contract with my dad and the doctor at the hospital, and I said, okay, so where do I sign it? He goes, you don't sign it. And I go, what do you mean I don't sign it? He goes, you don't sign it. He goes, you violate the contract, get the fuck out of the apartment, I'm done with you. And I said, what? And he goes, I'm done. He goes, this is it. Like, this is your last chance. I'm done. I'm like, I'm not enabling you anymore. I'm done. Your stepmother and I have decided we are no longer enabling you, that we will support you, you know, emotionally and financially for your first year of sobriety. And after that, like, you're on your own, which was interesting because I ended up getting a job that May, and this would have been like the middle of January. And by May, I was fully financially supporting myself, which, you know, I was proud of myself for that. I was like 5 months out of treatment, financially supporting myself. I was like, all right. So I know to a lot of people who are going to criticize that, that's not any kind of big deal, but I had never had any kind of real job besides dealing drugs, and I wasn't even good at that. So to me, I was very proud of myself. And so anyway, I got out of treatment, and my friend picked me up from treatment, and she was like a friend of mine that I had had since kindergarten, elementary, junior high, high school, college, graduate school, and we had partied hard a lot together. But she really cared about me, and she had made that very, very clear the few months leading up, and I just really hadn't seen her a lot lately. And I also had a friend of mine that got sober on January 1st that called me in treatment on New Year's Eve, and she was drunk. And I said, you know, I'm in treatment, right? And so her sobriety date was January 1st. And those were really like my only two friends at the time. Well, my girlfriend that I had like growing up, she'd been my friend. I mean, we literally were in the same kindergarten class together and got our graduate degrees together. She picked me up from treatment. My dad told me, you arrange a ride home. I'm done. Like, you know, you figure it out. And at that point, really, all he was paying for, I think he agreed to pay for my rent and my utilities. He wasn't willing to, we didn't have cell phones. So, and then he, I don't even think I had cable television or anything like that. I mean, it was nothing like that. He came once a week. He took me to the grocery store, and we bought like bare necessities, and then he would buy me a carton of cigarettes a week, and I had to make that carton last. And he gave me, I think, enough money to donate $1 every day to a meeting. So I think I got like $10 a week or something like that. And a lot of people bought me food in meetings. Like, they would want to go out to eat after meetings, and I'd be like, okay, I can go, but I don't have any money for food. And people would buy me food, and they'd be like, well, just buy me something later, or buy somebody else later a cheeseburger if they need one. And to this day, whenever I like go hang out with people that are sober and whatever, I usually always pick up somebody's meal, because everybody did that for me when I got sober. I mean, so many people drove me to meetings and never asked for gas money, bought me food, bought me cheeseburger. I mean, that's what you do, you know, for people in sobriety. And I'm so appreciative of it. You know, they made me feel included in all of that. I mean, I would look at them and it'd be like 10 people, and they'd be like, we're going to go to Denny's. And I'd be like, well, I don't have any money to go to Denny's, but I'll go and just sit there with you. And they'd be like, we're not going to let you go and not eat. Like, get whatever you want. And I was very skinny when I got out of treatment. I was kind of fat going into it. My counselor at one point said, you're the fattest cocaine addict I've ever met. But I lost a lot of weight in treatment, and I was very, very thin at that point in my life. Just to put this in perspective, I'm about 240 pounds right now. I'm super heavy. At that point, I was about 145, 150. So I was a good 100 pounds less than I am right now. And I had real long hair when I went into treatment. It was like, probably down to here. And, yeah, I just was, I looked unhealthy, and people fed me until I looked healthier. My dad would not let me buy any junk food. He would buy me like lunch meat, cheese, vegetables, you know, I mean, maybe like a bag of chips to go with, so I can make like a sandwich for lunch. Lots of lean cuisine meals at night, or not lean cuisine, but like Stouffer's meals and things like that, but always healthy ones. Lots of healthy choice soup. I remember back in the day, a lot, you know, and he was buying like lots of juices, you know, tons of water, stuff like that. I mean, he was really like, you're gonna eat healthy and get healthy, and I did for a very long time. And I know those things all sound like processed food, but you have to remember I don't cook. So for me, those were healthier meals than I was going to get if I went through a fast food somewhere. So I got out of treatment. My friend picked me up that day. I remember it was like, it had been like blizzard conditions, like up to the point that I got out. And miraculously that day, it had like warmed up and the snow was melting. And so she got me and she was like, what do you want to do? She was like, what do you need to do? And I said, I need to go down and get my books for school and make sure that my classes are registered. So we did that. And then she took me down, so downtown at that time I was getting my hair cut downtown, and she had surprised me and scheduled an appointment for me to get my hair cut. And I'll never forget this. I had grown my hair out, you guys, for like 3 years. When I started growing it out, I thought I was quite the hippie. I mean, I had really long hair, you guys. I used to wear it in a bun, or I wore it in a long ponytail down my neck or back a lot. But typically I would just part it down the middle wet and wear it behind my ears. It was super thick. And I've shown some pictures on videos before about it, but I'll have to find a picture and show you guys. So she had surprised me and scheduled this hair appointment, and she's like, I just thought it would be nice for you, you know, to get your split ends, you know, trimmed. You've been in treatment, blah, blah, blah. She was so sweet. I mean, this friend and I kind of fell out of touch, and I just saw her, I think I talked about this on here, I just saw her at Meijer, like, I don't know, it was like sometime last winter, and we like just stood there. She's like, let's go get a Coke. And so we went over and they had like a Coke machine in Meijer, and we stood there and talked forever. She's just a dear friend of mine. And so she told me that day, she said, I'm done drinking. She said, I'm not going to drink anymore. And I said, you don't have to do that for me. And she goes, no, I'm done. I don't want this life anymore. And she was done. She hasn't. I mean, she's very involved in her church today, and she took a different route than I did. I don't believe that she was an alcoholic and an addict. Did she participate in all those behaviors? Absolutely. But I don't believe that she used addictively. And she changed. Her life is completely different today. And, you know, she is also in the field of social work, or I'm not in the field anymore, but she's a social worker, and has been at the same place for 20 some years, and lives a very right life, and, you know, has a child and a husband, and I think she's amazing. But anyway, so she picked me up, and she had surprised me with this hair appointment, and so I went in there, and I'll never forget, my hairstylist name at the time was Debbie. And Debbie looked at me and she was like, okay, what are we doing? Split ends? Because I used to be so weird about my split ends, right? And I said, no. And she goes, what do you want? I said, cut it off. And she goes, what do you mean? And I said, I want a fresh start, cut it all off. And so she just looked at me and she's like, are you sure? I'm like, I'm sure, cut it all off. And so she did. And she put it back in a ponytail, and she cut off my ponytail, and she handed it to me. And she goes, do you want to keep this? And this was before like the wig stuff. Like, I don't remember when I got my hair cut off that people donated hair, because I would have definitely done that. And I said, no, just throw it in the trash. I don't even want it. And so I got my hair cut, like super short, like 2 inches short, if even that. And I can remember taking a shower that night. Well, I'll talk about the shower in a second, because the shower is important. But I can remember running my fingers over my hair and then sleeping in a bed that night, and it was so weird. Like, I had lost, like, all my hair was gone. Like, it was gone, and it felt so good. It felt so refreshing. I loved it. And, oh my God, so many people are giving me compliments on it. They're like, I'm so glad you cut that old hair off. But anyway, then my friend, she took me out to dinner. She paid for dinner. She was very nice. And I think we went to, there was this, well, Houlihan's. It's still around. And we went to Houlihan's. And then we went over to a friend's house. We watched a movie. And then she took me back to my apartment. And I hadn't been to my apartment now in over 34 days or something like that. And she came up with me, and I remember walking in and thinking that it was going to be exactly how I left it, like a complete mess. My dad had hired professional cleaners. I did just talk about this not too long ago. He had like, you know, the whole refrigerator was stocked with really nice food. You know, and there was a lot of stuff that wasn't super healthy, like boxes of macaroni and cheese and stuff like that. But, and I do remember that my dad had bought me these mint cookies that I always used to want to get as a kid, you know, like, I don't know why that, like, this shit with my dad in the apartment, I could just imagine my dad there, like, looking around, you know, like, but I remember he bought me these mint cookies. Well, he bought me a coffee maker. That made me cry the other night. But he bought me these mint cookies, and they were these grasshopper cookies that I always wanted as a kid, and my dad bought them for me, and I remember, like, opening the pantry door and seeing them there. He got my winter coat cleaned. He had all my clothes washed and dried and folded, and, you know, he had, like, the whole place was vacuumed. I mean, steam vac, everything. It didn't smell like smoke or anything in that apartment. It was so nice. He had, got me a new comforter, new sheets for my bed, new pajamas that were sitting on the end of my bed. My friend left, and I remember sitting there, and I put my feet up on the bed, and I thought to myself, well, you can run or you can stay. And I had a friend of mine that we had talked about, like, running, and then she said, I'm not gonna contribute to that. But I thought I could call her and probably talk her into it. And so I think I just talked about this the other night on the vlog, and I remember just something about, I just was like, you can run or you can stay. And I remember my counselor said to me, this will be the hardest thing you ever do in your life, but it'll be worth it. And so I went and I took a shower, and we talk about a third step in 12-step programs, which is made a decision to turn our life and our will over to the care of God as we understand Him. And I remember I stood in that shower with no belief of a higher power whatsoever. None. Because I believed if there was a God out there, no God would put me through what I had been through. And when I mean to tell you that when I talk about the drug use, that's just the beginning of what I suffered and situations that I put myself in as a result of that. There's a lot of things that at one point we'll probably be ready to talk about on here, but I haven't gotten to the point where I'm ready to share those pieces of my life. Those are still very personal to me. I hope that I can get to sharing those things with people to help people out there to realize that, I don't know, people go through shit. We go through shit in life, right? You are not the shit that happens to you. It took me a long time to realize that, maybe 10 or 15 years of intense work. It took me a long time to realize I'm not a piece of shit. I'm not what has happened to me in the world. And so anyway, I took a shower, and I used to drink in the shower, and I'm crying and bawling my eyes out, God, help me, help me. I get out, you know, and put on these little pajamas that my dad bought me, these, you know, flannel pajamas, and went out, and I'm like, made a cup of coffee, and I'm like, my dad had bought me these, like, movies, and I'm watching, like, you know, Clean and Sober, and I'm sitting there, well, I love that movie so much. I haven't seen it in so long, and I made a, you know, pot of coffee, and I'm smoking a cigarette and in my apartment, and I don't know, I felt good, you know? I felt so good. I felt good. I didn't want to lose that. And my mom had given me the book, Celestine Prophecy. And I sat there that night, and I stayed up all night long reading it. And the next day I called my dad, and I said, I can't go to school. And he was like, what do you mean? He got, like, real defiant with me on the phone. And I said, I can't go to school right now. I said, I need to focus on my sobriety and my recovery. And, you know, I think my dad really believed, and we've talked about it since, and I don't think he really remembers a whole lot, but I think he believed, like, this is I'm a pull the wool over your eyes kind of deal. And he said, you need to come in and see me, or something like that. So I came into his office, had a friend bring me over there, and we talked about it. He's like, okay, here's the deal, and, you know, I'll help you out until school's supposed to start in the fall. I think it was like 9 months or something we agreed on. And he goes, by then, if you're not back in school, you need to either be in school full-time or you need to be working full-time, and I'm done after that. And financially, I'm done after that. So you need to know that. The coming 9 months, I'm done. And so, you know, I started working in treatment. 5 months later, it just happened. I wanted to get in the field, and I went to my old counselor, and I told her, and she walked me down the hall, and she introduced me to this woman that ended up becoming my supervisor for 13 years, and she said he really wants a job here. He's a good guy. And the woman looked at me and she said, my supervisor looked at me and she said, well, how soon do you want to start? And I said, I can start whenever you want me to start. And she said, can you start today? She said, because I just had 2 people leave. And I was like, holy fuck. And I started that day. And I was like, I'm never going to get full-time hours. And she looked at me and she goes, trust me. She goes, you'll be having full-time hours sooner than you want them, because she hired me part-time. And within a week, I was full-time. And that was what I did. You know, I went to meetings in the morning. If I worked in the evenings, I went, and my shift was 3 to 7 or 4 to 12. And then I worked there, and I was a tech, and I went to a lot of meetings, and I took patients to a lot of meetings. So that was part of my responsibility, was taking patients in the van, the treatment van, to meetings. And it was fantastic. And all my friends were sober. I dated off and on. I got out of treatment immediately, and I'll tell I'll tell the recovery love story some other time, because I'm almost at an hour. But I immediately got in a relationship as soon as I got out of treatment. Bad choice. And then as soon as he and I broke up, I got into another relationship. Bad choice. Okay, so the first one was the guy that ended up becoming basically like, he has it all together and is like a millionaire beyond belief and still super attractive and whatever. But he and I never would have made it anyway. It doesn't matter. We were totally incompatible. But the second boyfriend is the one that I said is the one that kind of like got away, that I thought he was the love of my life. And then I found out a couple years ago that he had passed away. I think you guys might remember that story. That was Todd. And then my third boyfriend, then he and I broke up. We dated for like 3 months. This is all within my first year. Y'all, I had no business being in a relationship at all, let alone, 2 long-term relationships. So then my sponsor at that point said, okay, are you done doing it your way? And I was like, yeah. And he goes, okay, the next time you're choosing to get into a relationship, you have to tell me first. And I said, okay. So on Halloween, I didn't date anybody. I didn't have sex. I didn't do anything. My sponsor said I had to call him if I wanted to have sex. And I mean to tell you, there were some tough times in there. I was like, I'm not calling my sponsor and asking him about this. I'm just not going to do it. And he's like, you're not going to bring harm to anybody else. So if you're going to have sex with him, you have to say, I want to call my sponsor first and have him approve that I wasn't going to do that. So I just didn't do it, And that Halloween, my friend Chris and I, we actually went to I think that was like one of the first times I'd ever been out, because I didn't really go out again until like 2 years later, or till like 2 years sober. But we went to a drag show, and I had a very good friend of mine that he ended up passing away and later, but he had his little brother out that night. And so I met his little brother out, and I instantly was like, I think he was like, okay, we're like 1.5 years apart. And I was like, oh my God, it's true love. Like right away. And he was so funny. And I remember we started talking about Jenny McCarthy. We both loved Jenny McCarthy. And we started talking about that. And we both had like matching outfits on. We had like white shirts and jeans on. And so we like instantly started dating. And I mean to tell you, within like, I called my sponsor and I said, he's the one. And he started laughing. He was like, Peter, I go, no. I go, he's the one. And he goes, okay. So he was like, you do this, right? He goes, you're so close to 1 year anyway. You've worked what you need to work. He goes, I'll approve this. So like 2 weeks into this relationship, he and I moved in together. We had a great time though, like he was really supportive of my sobriety. He's a really cool guy. We're civil towards each other today. He lives in Florida. I never see him anymore, but like he'll send me a message every once in a while. When my aunt passed away, my uncle passed away, he sent me messages. Really sweet guy. We dated for almost 5 years. We lived together for almost 5 years. We traveled all over the place with my dad and my stepmom. We went to everywhere that you could possibly go in the Caribbean with them. My dad and my stepmom loved him. My mom loved him. He was just a really great guy, and it just didn't work out. We wanted 2 different things. I wanted to settle down, and he wanted to go and do like circuit parties, these like gay circuit parties, and that was the life that he wanted to go and live, and I just didn't want any part of that. And it kind of ended really bad one night. We were in the middle of being intimate, and he stood up and walked into the other room. And he said, and I followed him in the other room, and I said, what is going on? And he said, I can't do this anymore. And I said, what are you talking about? And he said, I'm not in love with you anymore. I have to be honest with you. I don't want to end up like, I can't remember how he said it. He was like, I don't want to end up like doing something that's going to hurt you. And I was like, okay. And I just looked at him and I go, are you serious? And he was like, yeah, I'm serious. And I remember I walked into the bedroom and I put on my clothes and I left and went to my mom's house. And I felt like every bit of air in that room had been taken out. And I talked to my mom and she's like, I don't even know what she said, but I just remember her looking at me like, I can't believe this is happening, but hey, you know, he was honest. And I went home and I sat down and I talked to him. I said, what's going on? He goes, I don't want this. You want to settle down and you want to play house and, you know, that's what you want, you know? You want to have that. I don't want that life. He was like, I want to, you know, travel for extended periods of time and I don't want to be settled down. I don't want to have a house and all that kind of stuff, you know? And I did. And I've always like kind of gotten off on cleaning and making the house look nice. And it's so funny because I just smelled that Mrs. Myers all-purpose spray. He's like, you want to, I've like always loved like doing laundry and having the house look nice. And, you know, like that's been who I've been. And we had a talk, you know, and it was okay. And it wasn't, we didn't end nasty at all. It didn't end nasty at all. And I look back on that 5 years and we had a lot of fun. And we never really fought. I will tell you something that he got in a relationship right away, right afterwards. And I'll never forget this because about 2 months later, I'm, you know, single, having the time of my life, out with my friend, looking the best I'd ever looked in my life, mind you. And he came up to me. He and his boyfriend would fight in bars like crazy. I couldn't stand this guy. And he would come, and I felt so bad for him that he was with this just absolute turd, right? And I'm like, why did you, like, I mean, okay, you didn't want to be settled down, but why did you go for this? Like, I mean, y'all are always fighting in bars and stuff. And I'll never forget, he came up to me and he looked at me and he said, he's living with like 4 people at that time, and he said, all of my roommates are messy. The house is always a pit. I never have any privacy. And he goes, I never really realized what you offered me until after I left. And I go, what do you mean what I offered you? And he goes, I just never really realized that what was important to you was so important to me until after I left. And I was like, well, okay, thank you. I mean, but she left. You know, but I think a lot of times we always think the grass is always greener on the other side. And what's really interesting is that he did that whole thing. He went to all the gay circuit parties and traveled and went to Palm Springs and went and did this and went and did that and then settled down. So, I don't know. You got to know what you want in life, you know? My first year of sobriety was fantastic. It was meetings. I'm so glad I started working and worked in a treatment program. That was so fun. I felt so involved in something that was bigger than me. But I wasn't a counselor, so I didn't have a lot of responsibility. So I just clocked in and clocked out. You know, I ran educational groups. I took people to meetings. You know, I took them to the cafeteria. It was fun. Like, I loved that job, you know, and it was very low key. I worked with a bunch of other techs. We were all the same age. We'd all go do stuff together. We'd all we were all sober. We were all early sobriety, like within the first 2 to 3 years of sobriety. So we'd all go to meetings and shit together. It was fun, you know. My friend that got sober right around the same time as I did, she and I hung out a lot. And my friend that picked me up from treatment, she was super supportive, and I'd see her from time to time, you know. It was a good year. Like, I felt really good. And, you know, people tell me all the time, they're like, I don't know what to do. Like, I'm in early sobriety and I'm bored. What do I do? You're going to be bored, okay? You know, for as long as you've been using drugs and alcohol, it's not just about the drugs and alcohol. It's about the chase. It's about the romanticizing of the drugs and alcohol. It's about going in and finding it. It's about the crazy things that happen in your life. But see, peace of mind can be boring. I'm okay with that today. I'm okay with having a somewhat boring life as long as I have peace of mind and I have serenity in my life. I don't want all that crazy toxicity, chaos. I don't need it. I don't chase it. I don't want it in my life today. And anybody that comes near me with that, I just can't be bothered. You know, I'm like, no, I don't want it. I don't want it in my life. And it was really, really important for me. The greatest thing that ever happened was that conversation between my dad and I when I told him I needed to build a foundation for my sobriety that year. I truly do not believe if my dad had helped me that year and I had done what I needed to do by going to meetings, working with my sponsor, working steps, going to a meeting or 2 every day until I worked. And I started school that August again as well. I took 15 credit hours and I was working full time and still going to a meeting or 2 a day. I really do not believe that, and fully financially supporting myself. So you can do it. I truly do not believe if I hadn't taken that first year to build a foundation for sobriety, I don't believe that I would be here right now, because I think that, like building a house, you have to have a strong foundation and you have to have a strong foundation for your recovery, and I think a lot of people miss that. So, I've gone really long. This is like over an hour, you guys, I think. So, maybe close to an hour. I don't know, with all the footage that I had before. Footage. I'm a documentarian. But the video clips from before. So, I'm going to get off here. I love you guys. I'm sorry with the mix-up of the camera. I'll try to figure it out tomorrow. But it's just going to take me a little while to get used to new camera vlogging. And how much battery it needs and all that kind of stuff. But I love you. Value your peace of mind. You know, really think about that after you watch this. Say, how much is my peace of mind and my serenity, you know, how much is it important to me? And am I really taking care to guard that on a daily basis? Because you should. You should. You deserve it. I love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.